Let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Looking forward to this conversation. My name is Bridget Ling. I am the VP of Marketing here at Pitcher. And I'm excited to be joined today by special guest Renee Afalter. Renee is the Deputy CEO and Managing Director at GateB. GateB is one of our leading consulting and implementation partners, and we're excited to have Renee joining us today. Renee's been working in the enterprise software space for 20 years now, and he's responsible for a large team of consultants and implementation specialists at GateB. He has a ton of experience in the areas of sales and marketing technology and process, and consults with large organizations across financial services, CPG, energy, and manufacturing. Renee, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
And I'm joined by Tom Stone, Pitcher's own Director of Sales. Tom has over 10 years of experience in the SaaS enterprise sales world, and he has led Pitcher's sales team since 2021. Welcome, Tom.
Hey, everybody.
So let's kick things off today. We're going to start talking about what has changed. Renee, you've got over 20 years of experience working in financial services. Tell us a little bit about what you see has changed in wealth, asset management, and banking.
Yeah, happy to do so. So welcome, everybody. So when we speak to, banks, financial insurance companies, etc., we see that client advisors are facing huge pressure nowadays, especially with, budget restrictions, economies in Europe not doing so well, etc. They face a pressure to be more efficient and more effective in their meetings. So that means, they have to be great in the preparation of their meetings. They have to have more meetings, etc. It's just a general environment of pressure on the sales teams of our financial industry clients. One thing we see especially is when we talk about client advisors and meeting preparation, it's super cumbersome for them to bring together all the data that they need, because they have so many data sources that they need to access for specific client information and the meeting preparation they need to do. They don't have any automation in the preparation, or they have various different tools that they might need to use for that. The information that they might get from the internal system is not really client specific, or is not really personalized. So that's one thing that we really see as a key pain point, that client advisors are struggling in their meeting preparation overall. When we speak about the meeting experience itself for the client, obviously it would be nice in 2025 to have a great experience and to get, real-time client portfolio data, for example, directly in the presentations. That's very hard to integrate in most of the legacy tools that, our financial services clients use. So it's something that we expect and our clients expect, that, they can provide a nicer experience for their end clients, essentially. And the meeting is not the final point. So when we see the entire journey end to end, basically, that a client advisor go through with the client, the client meeting follow-up and the nurturing of the client and everything that happens after the meeting, that's done still very manually, old school, old fashioned, with, simple sending of emails and giving phone calls, and not much help with modern technology. So that's something that we also think could have a bit more intelligence in, and our client advisors that we speak to are struggling with, basically, because obviously they forget to follow up, and they're the typical human beings that forget certain things and tasks that they have on their desk. So, and on top of that, banks, insurance companies, wealth managers, etc., they're starting to build AI tools and AI tool sets that have very specific purposes, but they're often not really considering how a client advisor works. So that's something that is not fully integrated into the client advisor journey. And that's also something that we see as a big challenge. So how do we bring in the AI tools that the banks are building now into that client advisor daily life, basically? So all of those things, that means basically the client advisor is, often very frustrated, because they have a certain expectation of tools and of modern work environment that they want to have, and in the end they're inefficient. They're not efficient enough for how efficient they should be and for the goals they should reach. So that's why we're kind of excited, to partner with Pitcher here and talk about what can we do from a technology perspective, and how can a modern technology support, the client advisor and make the life easier of the client advisor. And that's probably the perfect point to hand over to Tom to talk about this from a Pitcher perspective.
Perfect. Thanks, Renee. So I think, as Renee alluded, there's now a demand in the market from advisors and relationship managers for more efficiencies. And what's really exciting is the technology now exists to bring these functionalities to the forefront of their day-to-day working life. And I think one of the key things is we as a technology provider, we've looked at how can we support the advisor, but then most importantly, the client. So technology is now available that will elevate the experience of the advisor, but really importantly, changes the way that the client is able to engage with the organization's messaging, advice. And it really brings that whole end-to-end interaction to another level. Now, when we're looking at what are we calling that in the market, we're calling it revenue enablement 2.0. It's something which is always available and it is becoming mission critical. So there's 5 components to it. It's around delivering that comprehensive selling experience. And what we're going to discuss today and what you're going to see is how we bring that comprehensive selling experience to life. It's around being able to have the ability to unify and make use of complex data sets. So the data exists on what should you advise the client, what have we discussed with the client in the past. We want to bring that to the fingertips of the advisors. It's then around content and coaching done better. So how do you actually present? How do you really make the most of that 30 minutes, an hour you have with your client, where you're going to advise them on how they should manage their investments in the coming year, or you're going to give them advice on a new investment that you believe fits with their ethical goals and matches their portfolio goals. It's then around operational integration. So when you look at the technology stack that is in most big banking organizations, wealth management, there's multiple systems that advisors have to go to on any given day to any meeting. And now, by leveraging integration, to the one integrated platform. And then it's around leveraging AI. And Rene, I like how you started to touch on that AI is something that these big organizations now want. AI is something that brings a lot of efficiency, but it's actually still something that's relatively new. And with that, it means organizations are a bit apprehensive on how can they bring it in a compliant and safe way. And importantly, how can they bring in AI to a level that's genuinely going to make the advisor's life a bit easier. And what we're going to see with Revenue Enablement 2.0 is how it makes advisors' lives just that little bit easier. And we're going to really touch on that today. So this is what we're going to be looking at. And I think a question that I would like to position to everybody that's part of this webinar live and anyone that's watching it after is ask yourself, is your current technology, if you have AI available at the moment, is it working hard enough for you? Is it working hard enough for your advisors? And importantly, is it working hard enough for your clients? So is it giving you the results you want? If it isn't, then we're going to start identifying today what you can do to bring in those changes and bring in those efficiencies. So we're going to be looking at the personal advisor experience. We're going to be showing you how now technology is able to, within a matter of moments, create a custom agenda specific to the client, leveraging the previous meeting insights. We're going to move away from static content and PowerPoint presentations to customized dynamic pitch decks, which are really exciting. They're a real immersive experience. We're going to not only use the information that is within Picture in this example, but we're going to leverage integrations and make sure that all of the other tech stacks technologies you have in your organization are pulled into Picture. It's about accessing real-time data and analytics. So actually using the data to your advantage to really upscale your customer interactions. And then most importantly, and I know, Rene, this is something which we're going to definitely leverage your experience on because you have a vast network of financial services clients, is the end-to-end compliance. So it's about how do you do points 1 to 5 and make sure that throughout you're maintaining end-to-end compliance. And this is what we're going to start to really touch on today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tom. So as we dive into looking at a demo of what we've just talked about here, please feel free to answer or add questions into the Q&A tab at the bottom. We'll save time at the end for that for sure, but we can also answer questions along the way. So feel free to pop your question in at the bottom. All right. So Tom, Renee, let's dive in. Let's take a look at what we've been talking about. We're going to start with a little demo on what Revenue Enablement 2.0 really looks like.
Yeah. Absolutely. So in a moment, we're going to bring the screen up, and just to manage expectations here, we're just going to scratch on the surface of what Revenue Enablement 2.0 looks like. We don't want to just have you join and have us speak to a load of PowerPoint slides. So what you are going to see is live. So please bear with me if my camera goes a bit fuzzy or anything like that. It's because I'm actually going to be sharing picture with you. So with that, I will run the demo side, but you will hear from both myself and Renee throughout. So what you are all going to see, hopefully you're seeing it now, is a blue screen. At the very top of it, you'll see Hello Pitcher RM, welcome to Target Wealth Management. This is your first insight into what the advisor reality could look like by leveraging the Pitcher technology. So everything we've discussed so far is about efficiencies and making that advisor's life easier. So to start with, we're going to show you how we do that. So as an advisor, I log into Pitcher. Pitcher suddenly becomes my one application, that kind of Swiss Army knife that I always need to have with me because it's going to make my life easier. As I log in, I'm greeted with the dashboard. So this is where, as soon as I log in, I come in and I can see, for example, the most trending content. So Pitcher's already starting to identify and highlight to me things which are going to make me better. It's making my life easier. It's bringing things to the forefront of my reality, which I can now consider using with my client.
We lost Tom for a second. You're on mute.
He's back. Okay.
I'm back. Sorry.
No worries.
About this is live. Next, what you've got here is the leadership team at Target Wealth Management, which is a fictitious organization we've created for today, wants all of their advisors to watch this new video. So instead of having to rely on your advisors to go to an external resource to find that, you just simply bring it into Pitcher. It's managed by a very simple and seamless integration. As we scroll down, this is where I think it starts to get really exciting because this is where it's truly impactful. As an advisor, since I was in Pitcher yesterday, I've logged back in and I can now see that since I was last in, there are 17 new slides to enrich my presentation. And also our marketing colleagues have worked really hard to create 6 new marketing templates that I can use when interacting with my clients. So starting to identify that information for me. And finally here,
before you move on from that really quick, we do have a question that just came in. Talk about the relevant content that we're seeing here. And is it customizable? So you mentioned that was content that was brought in by the marketing team or the sales team of that particular wealth management organization.
Absolutely. So everything you're seeing here, to be very clear, to answer that question, Bridget, thank you for that, is completely customizable. This is one example of what the advisor dashboard could look like when you log in. We work with all of our clients to make sure that this dashboard meets their requirements. So you may not, to that point, you may not want the most trending content to be showing here. So instead, we can make sure that that's somewhere else within the system. Everything that's here, you're able to click into, you're able to review. This is coming from compliant, approved content that's been passed down from the marketing team. By leveraging an integration, as soon as that content is approved as compliant and advisor facing ready, it will automatically pull into Pitcher. But yes, to answer your question, everything here is able to be tailored to you. You can choose colors, it's entirely up to you.
And just to add to that, I mean, that's obviously depending on the client advisor's portfolio of end clients, you know, so we can filter basically what booking center the client advisor is in, etc. All that logic is in the backend basically of Pitcher, and that's pulled in so that the client advisor only sees content that for that specific client advisor is actually relevant in that region or for their specific clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Really great point. Thanks, Rene. And just to jump back in here, just to finish what we're looking at here, and then we're going to show you how AI really starts to change the game. Finally here, this just is a really lovely example of how you can leverage the external tech stack besides Picture. So what we're doing here is we've leveraged an integration with the LMS. In this example, as an advisor now, I'm notified when I have a training course that I have to complete. And instead of having to go to that third-party system, it's here. I can complete it. Once I finish my training course, Picture automatically updates the LMS. My leadership team can see I'm up to date with my training and everything that I've been asked to do has been completed. So we're going to quickly pivot now to show you how does it work when you're actually preparing for a customer meeting. So I've got a meeting coming. We want to prepare for that. So what we can do now by leveraging AI, what we're able to do is, and leveraging that integration into, in this example, the target wealth management CRM. Now that can be any CRM, it could be Dynamics, Salesforce. Let's say it's Salesforce. What I've got here is straight away, Picture with one click has given me insight into the Adams household. So I can see they're a high value net worth household, interested in the US markets and looking into investment ideas about upcoming elections. And they are in the process of considering diversifying their portfolio after December. So now's a great time. December's passed, time to start speaking about that. Straight away, I can see the last interaction. We qualified that there's $100,000 they want to invest. They're not sure what they're going to put that into yet. It's pulled this directly from Salesforce. As we scroll down, this is where Picture is able to leverage PIA, which is Picture's intelligent assistant, AI. And what PIA has done is identified different pieces of content which, based on the Adams household, in Adams household's data, is going to be of potential interest to them. So as an advisor, I can jump in and I can review these, and I can decide if I want to include those in my upcoming presentation. And the final point here is key discussion points. So Picture is now, as an advisor, helping me identify the key points I should discuss as well. So with one click, I've kind of caught myself up. I'm now ready and prepared to start thinking about the agenda and what do I show. So this is where it starts to get really very cool, in my opinion. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use Picture to create the agenda for our meeting, but an agenda specific to the Adams household. So what you're going to see real time is the agenda being created. So what's happening here is Picture is using that account insight to create a custom agenda specific to the Adams household. So this is an agenda created just for them. It's based on the time we have allocated, and I've got the key discussion points that we're going to go through. So as an advisor, I know agenda creation can be a pretty timely exercise because you really want to make sure you got it right. This took 20 seconds. The next part now is, what do I show them? I know what I'm going to talk about. I've got the previous insights. What do I show them? So with Picture, within a matter of moments, literally moments, we have a custom pitch deck to run through our meeting with the client. What we've got here is, we've got the client's name is going to be automatically pulled in. We've got, since our last meeting, it's going to pull in how their portfolio is performing. And it's going to allow us to create something really very special for the client, which when the client sees it, is going to completely elevate their experience. Now, everything in here can be adjusted, can be edited. We're not going to spend time on that today. We're going to show you what it looks like. So this is what the client would see. So when we have our meeting, they've got a custom experience specific to them. We can see as of the 26th of March, their portfolio is worth about $1.34 million. So they're doing very well. As we scroll down, we've got our meeting agenda, and it can take us to key. It's got embedded links, so we can jump to key pieces of content if we wanted to. As we continue to work through our presentation, we can update them on, since our last meeting, you're 25% up year to date. This is the market average. We can go through those stats with them. And Picture's leveraging an external integration to pull this information in. Next, and you'll notice here it's not in English, but I'm speaking in English. That has been done on purpose because Picture is multilingual. So it can be in the given language of the client that you're seeing. So here, what it's doing is it's pulling in a full snapshot of their entire portfolio. As we go down, this is how you're going to see what it looks like to actually present content to the client. So with the client in the meeting, you're able to really seamlessly jump in to different content, speak through it with them. You're able to jump from one piece of content to the other, all within the same application. So we can go from getting that dream home in the Hamptons to, you mentioned that you're thinking about diversitising your portfolio. So we put some thought behind that, and we want to take you through a few things. Also, you mentioned that you're looking to unlock alternative investments. So we've actually got some ideas which we think are going to be exciting for you about typical investments beyond the typical traditional assets, and we'd like to go through this with you. All advisors, they have the know your customer. That's an element of their world. So we brought that into Picture. So now we can come in, we can see financial summaries. We can leverage all of this information. And then
just Thomas, there's some questions here that are relevant maybe to answer now, because both of them have to do with integrating other data. So Andreas has asked, how is the content uploaded, and does the content team need to properly meta tag the data and so on? So for example, when something was buy in December and now is a sell, how do we ensure that? So that's one of the questions. And Sean Cole asked basically, what data is in the CRM that helps create the content? So I think both is one of the key things to get this right, is to have the integrations in place properly. So obviously the CRM integration is very critical, because in the CRM you might have information like, what meetings did you have with that client? What's the client history? What interactions did you have recently? What was the last phone call? Which products did you speak about, etc.? So all that information is pulled in for the agenda and the presentation creation. And the content that is pulled in from the content systems, that's equally important than the CRM integration, because as you say, Andreas, the content repository and to manage the content properly is very crucial. And that's one of the key integrations to Picture, is some form of content repository where the content lifecycle is, managed. And even within Picture, you can manage certain aspects of that. But it's certainly crucial that the content is organized in a fashion that Picture can understand which content is the current content and which one is the relevant for this specific client. And that's a lot to do with the integrations we have to those tools.
Perfect. Thanks, Rennie, for that. I'm just also conscious of time. I want to make sure we have a moment to cover Q&A and compliance. So I want to end this final piece of the live demo. We're just showing you how technology now exists that can even help with the admin side of the post-meeting admin side of an advisor's reality. Picture here has been recording everything that we've been showing, the slides. We're able to go in and say, was it a positive interaction? We can put in our meeting notes, and we can even schedule our next follow-up. Once we're done, we click save, and straight away, everything is pushed into the CRM. So we're starting to really build on the quality of the data that is building up in our CRM, which is only going to help us when we move to our next meetings and we continue to build a long-term strategic partnership with that client. And I'm going to stop sharing now, but one thing just to know, that everything we've just shown is designed to be shared with a click of a button. And this is where the compliance side of it comes in. So I know, Bridget, we have a very short video.
Yeah.
We're not going to watch all of it, but we have brought this video in because what we wanted to do is make sure you can see what it looks like when you really start to leverage those integrations. So again, what you're looking at here is Picture. This is a different example of how Picture can work. But what's happening here is Picture is pulling in fund data. So it's an integration with a third-party system. This will be external to Salesforce. Via the integration with Picture, what happens is, in a very engaging, dynamic, and real time, we're able to actually go through, and advisors are able to go through clients' portfolios. So obviously, the idea of today is not to give you an end-to-end demo. We could set up and we could run a 30-minute session just on this section of Picture alone. Obviously, the idea is that we we will, after this, be able to have time to set up sessions with all of you individually to really dive into the detail here. Renee, anything you wanted to add on this? Because I know this is something which, for an advisor and the client, it's a very...
Yeah, I think the key here is, if you compare it to how client advisors nowadays present, it's typically static PowerPoint slides, let's be honest. And it's maybe some form of interaction that is maybe in a separate system where you have to switch between systems, etc. What we like about Pitcher and our clients love is, the interactivity of the presentation. So on one hand, we had a question like this: can you output that in the PDF? Yes, of course, the PDF and what comes out of a static information is still an option, but if you're sitting with the client, you want to have an interactive format, which is what Pitcher allows really. It's not that you create a PowerPoint in a modern way, but that you create a modern form of presenting to the client in a way that is integrated with all your source systems of, CRMs, content and performance data and client portfolio data. So that's really the nice thing here that this video shows is, you can really make it interactive in the meeting itself, like Tom says, and that's not to be underestimated because, let's be honest, PowerPoint is a little bit old school for presenting in 2025.
Exactly. And everything that's being shown here is shareable. So you move away from a world where you are sending static content and PDFs via email attachments to sending an embedded link, which really allows the client to engage with the information you've shared external to the meeting. One quite cool element as well is when you share content in this way, you also are allowing yourself to have insight to when is it being used. So by sending and sharing the experience, the presentation experience you've created and you've run through with the client in the meeting, by sharing that after the meeting, you're also able to start to understand how are your clients engaging with the advice that you're giving? How are they engaging with the content that you're creating? And Pitcher's able to bring that information to the forefront of the advisor's day-to-day reality as well. And I think the end part, just to end on, is compliance before we quickly move and open up to Q&A. One thing that is very important is compliance. So everything we've discussed today is designed to deliver end-to-end compliance. And that begins from the moment the advisor starts preparing for their interaction. They will only be able to use compliant content because Pitcher will only bring in content which has been approved and advisor-facing ready. They will only be able to share content that is specific to that client. And Renee, I know you had a point about this, about how important it is to make sure that the right content is available in the right region and the right content is being surfaced for the right client. So I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, we actually have a question from Mikhail about this. How do we ensure that client restrictions are applied in the proposal? So we either have to take that logic and implement it in Pitcher, or if the customer has, a rule engine or wherever that logic sits, we can integrate to that. So there's two options. But many of the clients actually, if they don't have a modern engine, they actually build kind of the restriction set also within Pitcher to make sure that only the right content and the compliant content and the compliant products that the restrictions are restricting for the client advisor are shown. So that's something that is built into the back end of Pitcher as well. So that's, the 20-minute show and talk about Pitcher is showing you the nice front end and how it looks from a client advisor journey. When we do a demo for you guys, we would like to show you how all the logic is in the back end. So feel free to reach out to do a more detailed follow-up demo, obviously, about this. And we have some questions about, wouldn't AI then be able to read the policies? No, we can ensure that this is separated in the backend. And speaking of AI, everything we've shown with AI, obviously we need to be able to integrate, financial services institutions AI rather than the Pitcher AI. So that's also something that we have to integrate to the AI that the bank or the insurance company might already use. So that's also something that is very, very important.
Great questions coming in. We've got another one here. How do you handle IT security concerns within a bank when we try to combine data or use client identifying data?
On a high level, we don't store client data within Pitcher, and Pitcher is built in a way that the data is not stored, the client identifying data. From a technical perspective, I'm sure there's better people to explain that on a very technical detailed level, but that's what the first thing that we ask and the first thing that our clients typically ask. So that's something that we can ensure basically from a technical perspective. We work with very restrictive banks and so on, also in Switzerland, for example. That was one of the key points they wanted to make sure. But that's ensured.
Great. We've got, these are kind of to sum it up, and feel free to drop. We've got a couple more questions that have come in. Feel free to drop in your final questions here. But Tom, Renee, take us through these key takeaways, and we can continue to take a few more questions.
Yeah, well, I think from my point of view, the key takeaways are the technology now exists for you to demand more. So it's a question about, are you getting everything you need from your current systems you have in place? Are you able to embrace step-by-step AI integration? So are you able to leverage AI in a compliant way? Because if you're not currently, and it's something you want to do, then the technology is now there to allow you to do that. It's about supporting every stage of the client engagement. So that's from, as we've shown today, preparation to follow up, and it extends past that. So you're now able to see how your clients are engaging with your advice, with your content. Are you getting that currently at the moment? If not, it's really something you should be starting to understand, starting to think about, how do you bring that in, and how do you start to realize and benefit from that feature? And then it's modernizing the engagement experience. So we're in a world now where AI is available. Technology is changing literally by the month. There's always new features coming out. We ourselves at Pitcher have incredibly exciting roadmaps, so we're always looking to add new functionality for our users. But are your engagement experiences, is the way that you're engaging with your client, is it modern, is it exciting, is it dynamic? If you're still using PowerPoint presentations and PDF documents, which there is a place for, may I add, but are you able to really elevate that engagement? Is it exciting? Are your clients really engaging with your brand and your advice? Because now, with things like Pitcher, they can. And it's very simple. It's that point I made earlier about technology such as this makes the advisor's life that little bit better, but completely transforms the client experience.
Another question, can we integrate the follow-up intelligence in Pitcher with Outlook and MS Office tools?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's something that's crucial, because we obviously are part of still an integrated journey where a client advisor might have to work with a CRM. They might have to, obviously, their normal Outlook and calendaring tools. So as part of that journey to kick off, for example, the meeting preparation, you start in the CRM. For the follow-up journey and so on, Pitcher integrates with the emailing and the calendaring tools that might be in place. So that's something that is fully integrated. So you see a key part of bringing in Pitcher is the integrations that we're building to all the existing systems. And that's why we as KB like Pitcher a lot, because it's very flexible in those integrations and it's not tied to a specific CRM or to a specific, client portfolio tool, etc. But that's something that is really one of the key things to discuss.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, we do that in phases. We don't start with a big bang and do all integrations at once. When we implement a solution like this, you start with the key integrations at the beginning. So the content and the CRM might be very key, and some client restrictions, and then you roll out additional kind of integrations over time. You don't have to do all at once.
I think you kind of answered the next question, Renee, just to tag on that. If we have existing non-replaceable systems with data and content, can we incorporate that into a tool like Pitcher? You just hit on that as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's really the key, that we always work around existing tech stacks. And I think that's the reality. We don't see when we come in with Pitcher that, we can replace everything that's there. It's more the glue that brings the client advisor experience into one place. That's really the core that we see in this.
And I think just adding to that, your point, Renee, on the integrating with Outlook, the question around, can you integrate with Outlook? I was fortunate enough to be at a wealth management event in London last week. And one of the things which I was starting to discuss a lot more with clients there is how their advisors now are wanting to also leverage communication streams external to Outlook. And the great thing about Pitcher is we unlock a whole new way of communicating as well. So if you want to unlock your advisors to be able to communicate in a compliant way and a recorded way via SMS or WhatsApp, that's now available within Picture. So I think that's also a really nice example of how you elevate the client experience. So if you have a client that is more responsive and prefers to talk via text or WhatsApp, well, now you're able to do it. It's compliant. Everything is tracked in the CRM. So you can unlock that feature for your advisors, but know that you are going to be ensuring that as an organization, you're working in a very compliant manner as well.
That's great. All right. Well, I think
Just checking if there's any questions we haven't
time at
got.
this point. Couple minutes over, but that's great. Great questions. Thank you, everybody. Great conversation today, Renee and Tom. Renee, it's awesome to have you here with us to give your insight and perspective, and Picture's really excited to be partnering with you and Gate B. So we look forward to lots of great things ahead. And thank you to everybody for joining us today. We will be sending this webinar via email, recording this webinar via email within the next 24 hours. Pass it along and reach out to us. We've got our direct emails here. Reach out to us directly for further conversation. Renee, Tom, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.